South Sydney got a board meeting tomorrow night, and we're sort of trying to get our head around what will happen with Jason Demetriou. What do you expect? Do we think there'll be something come out of that board meeting, or potentially beforehand, because they were pretty poor on, when was that game? Thursday night. Yeah. Got flogged by Melbourne.
Yeah.
He was already under the pump, and just exacerbated all that pressure on him. What do you think?
Well, they've got Penrith this week.
Yeah.
So, and that's on Thursday night.
Yeah.
So it's only a couple of days away now. And pretty much like Melbourne, you'd think that Penrith are not going to show any mercy. So do they preempt that? And
when you're fighting for your job, they're the two worst games you could possibly get.
That's what
Melbourne
I mean.
in Melbourne, and I think they're at home against Penrith, but it doesn't really matter when you're playing Penrith. But
a call,
Yeah, a call. So, I mean, I feel for JD a bit. But I don't know. Do you think they need to rip the Band-Aid off, or just?
Well, I was out there yesterday, and I tried to pose that question to the players to say, you know, JD says that he hasn't been told otherwise, that he's the coach as far as he knows. But I said, do you want to know? Do you want some clarity? Do you want to know now rather than have this thing drag out, which it could have the potential to? And the players danced around it and, you know, said everything that the Eels have said about Brad Arthur, that we love him and we respect him as our coach and the rest of it. But there's no doubt, like, it's if you think they go down to Penrith, then, you know, 9 rounds at the bottom of the table, turning around that season is probably going to be impossible. So why not just pull the Band-Aid off and start rebuilding, quote unquote, to the next season?
If you're heading to Penrith, though, what is a worse preparation that you could have than to sack the coach in the week of?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or to pull the Band-Aid off. Like, it's not going to get any better.
Yeah.
It could potentially only get worse.
I suppose you end the speculation.
And the speculation. Absolutely.
You end the speculation. And I think that at some level, the players are probably already mentally prepared for it because it has been in the news for so long that it's almost, that it feels like at this point the club is just delaying the inevitable.
Yeah, it feels like it's a matter of time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my gut feeling is just they will, and I don't know this is not any mail or anything, but my gut feeling is they'll say to him, "You've got the rest of the year, but we're moving on at the end of the year," and then it's up to him whether he stays or not.
That makes the most. I feel like that makes sense though too, because they still have, you know, Latrell's still got to come back as well.
Yeah.
There's still pieces left to fall into play. I mean,
it's intriguing because obviously they've gone out and signed Lewis Dodd. Well, they're about to sign Lewis Dodd officially. Young halfback playing for St Helens in England. And JD's been such an outspoken supporter of Lachlan Ilias, like very public about his support of Lachlan Ilias. And then the club goes and brings in a halfback who's going to come over the top of Lachlan Ilias. It sort of feels like it's
a calculated move.
Well, and
a statement or something.
A statement,
yeah.
Do you know? Have you seen much of him, Lachlan?
No, not really. No. Just the clips that kind of came out over the weekend.
Yeah.
Looks like he could be. Yeah. Could be a really good buy for them. What do you think? Really?
I mean, the interesting thing about that is, like, Lewis Dodd's proven himself in the Super League, right? Yeah. He's only 22.
Yeah.
20.
He's young. He's young.
That's the same age as Lachlan Ilias. I think they're about the same age, aren't they? So for me, the way I see it is, it's almost taking as much of a risk as they did with Ilias when they backed Ilias over Reynolds, because he is only 22. And you hear people who talk about the difference between the Super League and the NRL, that the NRL is just a level above. Don't get me wrong, the Super League is a very competitive competition, but you talk about just the speed of the game, and I wonder whether they're just going to go through the same sort of cycle with Lewis Dodd, where this young kid again comes over as this saviour, like they thought that Ilias was going to be their future. Because it is a long-term deal, right? It's 3 or 4 years.
Three or four, yeah.
So, you know, backing him in a similar way that they did Ilias, and he's only 22. So that's a lot of pressure on Lewis Dodd too, especially if the rest of the season is a complete schmozzle. He comes into the side as the guy who's going to be viewed as their saviour in the halves. It's a lot of pressure.
Did they say anything yesterday about Jack Whiten potentially moving into the halves?
No, it didn't come up, but it's if it is going to happen, it's probably more likely next week when the Latrell comes back, especially if they want to shift the Latrell into the centres. So that I guess it makes more sense to move him there. But again, that's still another question mark, right? Like, is it if you have Jack White in the halves, is it two playmakers that are too similar? So they've still got a lot of things to figure out.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to ask you, like, what are your thoughts? Like, how do they move forward? If you're saying that you believe that they're going to stick by JD, at least for the rest of the year, or just say you can continue for the rest of the year, how do they, in the meantime, then also, agitate change?
Sorry to interrupt, but just another thought bubble. So if they wait until the end of the year, what does that mean for Wayne Bennett? Like, is Wayne Bennett going to wait around for the end of the year?
You go and get a coach.
They publicly announced
we're moving on at the end of the year.
Okay, I thought you meant
Wayne's coming.
They sort of wait until the end of the year to
and Wayne's coming to replace him. And but I don't know what will happen. Maybe nothing happens tomorrow night at that board meeting. Who knows? But I think Lewis Dodd's a good signing because look, I think it's unfortunate for Lachlan Ilias. I think if I'm Lachlan Ilias right now, I'm looking around because so many clubs need her. I mean, he is ready made for the Bulldogs. If I'm the Bulldogs, I'm reaching out to Braith and Astor as his manager and saying, what can we do to get a deal done? Because I think Lachlan Ilias is a good halfback, and that's probably the missing piece at the moment for the Dogs. So I think that's a logical move. And I think Lewis Dodd, I mean, he's led a team around in England, and I know it's not the same. It's not the NRL, but they're a really powerful football team. Like they're the biggest, one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest club in Super League. He led them to a victory over Penrith in the World Club Challenge. I mean, he's got some ability.
He does.
We've seen guys, Georgie Williams come out here and was a really good footballer. So I think he's going to be a handy signing. But if you're Ilias, what's your emotions, do you reckon, right now?
Oh, you'd feel pretty gutted, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd feel, like a kick in the guts, like the writing's on the wall there. I don't know. I wonder how they've posed this to him as well. I wonder if they've said anything to him about it.
I don't think he knew.
Wow,
until he saw it until it just got. I think Mick Carrianis wrote the story, and I think Mick made sure that people knew before he wrote the story, which was very respectful of Michael to do that.
No, he's a respectful fellow, isn't he?
Respectful guy.
But so I think that's when Ilias found out by the sounds of it, which has got to be tough for a kid who's invested a lot into that footy club.
Absolutely.
And they've invested a lot into him.
Yeah.
Do any other clubs do you think make sense for him?
Well, I think there's probably the Bulldogs probably make sense. He's from, I think his family are actually around the corner from me in Five Dock, but so there are plenty of clubs who are looking for halfbacks.
The Dragons are looking for
the
a
Titans
halfback.
need a halfback as well.
Yeah, I think he'll have plenty of options, which is good news for him. But he's got to obviously get back from that broken leg. What do you have again?
Broken leg.
Yeah.